Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Why I Hate F1 2015 Online. Now, it's not just the lag, the fact that it takes 4 millenniums to get into a race and then a further 6 millenniums for the race to actually start, but also the bad drivers. And we hit 2 of those birds with 1 stone in this race, where I get a reasonably good start, and then this Williams decides he doesn't want me in existence, and my frame rate completely collapses at the whole of his horrific driving. That session goes from bad to worse, as coming round this bend, my frame rate completely collapses, and I get kicked from the session for no apparent reason. Thanks. We're at Spain for the next race, and the race engineer actually warns us to be careful at the start, and I get a reasonably good start. This Red Bull moves out of my way, and so does this Toro Rosso, causing a huge pile-up. Well, I'll take first place, and it looks like there's only 2 people who aren't involved in the pile-up that takes place about 4 foot away from the start line. A few bends later, the other guy who wasn't involved in the start line pile-up has caught up to me, and coming into what I believe is turn 4, he decides to ram me up the arse and make me go wide. He's then alongside me, and I decide to go a little bit defensive. He gives me a little nudge, and then completely wipes me out, and himself. I mean, just why? We had such a big lead over the field, and now we're 6th and 7th. That's not it for crashes in that race, as a couple of laps later I am just slipstreaming a Red Bull on the straight. Coming into turn 1, I get the move done, pull back across him and brake, and he doesn't! He's able to make the bend because he used me as his brakes, whereas I am off into the gravel trap and lose about 3 places. That incident put me and the Williams, who wiped me out earlier, practically next to each other, and as we come into the final part of the lap with the chicane, he's going extremely slowly, so I go for a risky move and he wipes me out. Completely turns across me, and my rage level is at an all-time high. 4 hours later, I had found another session and got a pretty bad start, and at this point my rage was quite high, so my racing, well, it was a bit off, so to speak, and I'm in 7th as we come towards turn 1, and there's complete carnage with everybody taking everybody out, and I'm in 3rd place, and then I spin and smash into a Red Bull. I'm on the grid for Austria, and I have high hopes for this race, as I like the track, and it's one of my better tracks, but I get a lot of wheel spin and have a little bit of contact with a Red Bull, but that's nothing compared to the complete carnage that my side pod receives coming into turn 1. Whoever did that, just hunt them down and kill them, please. Just, please. Later on in that race, I've clawed back a few positions, but a Ferrari is trying to overtake me into turn 1. And he turns across me and I get a load of oversteer and spinniness, and he just drives off in the distance. How is that an overtake? That's not. Later on in the same race, I'm still in 5th and I'm looking to claw back positions, and I go a bit wrong in the last bend, and actually I get a 2-second time penalty, and then this McLaren completely wipes me out on the main straight. I mean, it's a straight. How do you manage to crash someone out on the straight? And you can hear by the revs of the engine that my rage is at an all-time high, as I'm actually unable to get the car pointing the right direction and lose 2 more places. On the final lap of that race, I've managed to lose my front wing after having a spin, and I realise how unimpressive the penalty system is, as I get disqualified for that. I had no front wing, the race was over, I ran a tiny bit off on the grass, which is slower, and I get disqualified. We're in Russia now, and everybody's done their qualifying lap, apart from this guy, who in the replay we can see revving his engine and spinning his tyres meters away from the finish line just to agitate us all. All I ask is that we can have good, clean, entertaining races, even if you're slower than everyone else. You don't need to ram them out, because there's always going to be someone who's the same speed as you. I mean, look at this close racing. There's a little nudge, someone gets completely wiped out. But this is good, close racing, this is fun, this is what we play F1 for. You don't need to be rammed out. I mean, those guys cut the corner, and that slightly annoyed me. But other than that, it's not... Is it that much to ask? Is it that difficult to keep your car on the track and not to be involved in accidents? Apparently it is, as we're on the grid for Russia, and the Ferrari in front of me has absolutely no intention of pulling away from the grid, as he goes about 1 mile an hour. That's severely cost me time, and then actually he goes flying round turn 1 and runs wide. That's just... Where's the consistency? It makes no sense. I'm pleasantly surprised to find there is consistency to his driving, as he's had a spin all by himself at the next turn. We're still at Austria, and I've managed to get my way into the lead battle as we're coming up the hill towards turn 2. I've got a Red Bull alongside me who gives me a nudge because he wants to try and overtake, and then I go down the inside of both of them, and despite being ahead, the Williams turns into me and costs both of us time, letting the Red Bull get ahead, and despite him going on the grass, he comes back on in front of me. I'm trailing the lead group, and through turn 4 the Williams decides to take the scenic route, and I have no choice but to hit into the back of them and lose a place to the Ferrari that hit me at the start. There was one positive to take from that race, and that's that I was able to overtake the Red Bull that was leading as he makes a mistake into turn 4. That gives me 3rd place, which I go on to finish in. At least I haven't seen this same podium sequence over 1,000,000 times. I'm starting 13th in a Toro Rosso for this race at Hungary, and I'm just going to try and keep out of a turn 1 crash. I don't want to get my car damaged, I don't want to be spun round, but that's probably going to happen to a lot of other people. Wait, what do I mean probably? I mean definitely going to happen to a lot of people, as there's 2 off there, a Toro Rosso off there, a Force India round there, then there's a manner defying physics, and that's just turn 1. Coming into turn 2, a couple of cars decide they like the look of that barrier, and that gives me P4. Coming into turn 2 on lap 2, a McLaren rams me up the arse and forces me wide, and then decides he hasn't had enough and puts me on the grass as well, compromising me speed and time so that the Ferrari behind is able to drift past as well. Lag and the amount of millenniums you have to wait to actually get into a race, and then I mean, it just is waiting for players for ages, and everyone's got a... Everyone gets like 5 minutes to choose whether they're ready to start the race, and those are 2 things that hopefully, well, they could and they should be improved for F1 2016, but bad drivers, unfortunately they can't.